Good morning, everyone. It's Monday, the 21st of November. It's Judge's Jewels. 5 more for the tracker after a very controversial weekend, which we shall discuss as well. But before I introduce the judge, I've got to tell you, I've got an each way double dipper for you. It is on the top link for a fiver. 2 each way prices. They go this afternoon. Get involved. We had an amazing week at HFC, and very, very quickly, regular customers of mine, which is why you must join HFC Club. It's free. Were contacted yesterday about my Platinum Club. I had a Platinum bet yesterday. I don't give the names of the horses. That's one of the old, it's like the old Fight Club. But I can tell you they were giving it at 15-2 and it won very, very easily. So thumbs up to everybody who got involved in that. And another reason to get in the HFC Club. Right, that's a little bit of housekeeping, not something that I'll be getting involved in too often. Right, Judge, how are you doing, mate? What a controversial weekend.
Well, you called it from Friday night, didn't you? It's just such a shame. It's just, you didn't just call the one, you called the Actra Cup as well. They all didn't run. I mean, it's shambolic, really, isn't it?
On that, Judge, I got a couple of, shall we say, fairly abusive tweets on Friday night. And one of the two people has tweeted back and apologized, which is great. But the other one, mind how you go.
Because you can only say what you think's going to happen and what you believe's going to happen. But I mean, honestly, it's the game's eating itself alive at the minute. I hate to keep moaning about it, but it's like it's ridiculous. Even the fields themselves, even the handicaps, it couldn't bet each way apart from in 2 races on the telly on Saturday. I mean,
there was absolutely no benefit at all in me telling people on Friday that I thought it was likely, certainly highly likely, that Constitution Hill wouldn't run, and that the other two may pull out. Nothing in it for me at all.
Exactly
what I thought. I wish they had a run, and those tweets were incorrect. Yeah. I was bullying, to politely put it.
One thing I was surprised about. So the comments from Nicky Henderson when he said he'd have made the horse injured, or sort of like it was being criminal type of thing. You think, well, it's making it sound like the ground was like rock hard. He'd been better off saying the ground wasn't suitable. For him to say he was, we're getting to the stage now where I can't see any positivity in it really. And yet Nichols runs his horses nearly all the time, doesn't he? It's bizarre.
Yeah, somebody was telling on Twitter about Sea Pigeon, who used to run on flat and the hurdles, ran in the Ebor of top weight, ran in champion. They used to run all year round, and I just think what a different era.
We're in a different era, mate. I just think the world's like it. It's all gone soft.
Yeah, I would love to have seen all those 3 horses for different reasons, but it's going to make it a very short season if we just all about 4 days. And one thing when people say about welfare, just finish on this comment, Judge, before we look at the right. I've got to do what's best for the horse was said by all 3 trainers. I'm a fan of all 3 of them and certainly not going to criticise them. But let me just pose this question, if it's about welfare. If at Cheltenham the ground is exactly the same, good to soft, this is the official readings of the Times, are you telling me those 3 trainers will pull these 3 horses out? I'm not so sure, Judge.
I think we know the answer to that. I mean, like I understand, some of it in some aspects in terms of like early in the season and all that. But it's fine. Withdraw the horse. Just don't just say it's going to be, it's make it sound like any horse that ran on Saturdays was going to be injured. Was basically kind of implied, and which is not really what we should be doing in terms of promoting the sport, is it? Especially when you've got the RSPCA on your doorstep all the time. It's not true, is it?
What should have been a sort of pre-Christmas party at Ascot was a bit of a damp squib, and I'm not sure.
Not cheap either, is it, mate? It's not cheap going to the races.
Having a walkover with a big crowd there. How many people that went on Saturday will be in a rush to go back? Ask yourself that.
Small percentage, right. I'm afraid.
Now, what I will say is, Haydock had a brilliant meeting. So we'll concentrate
it was
on that.
even bizarre there though, because I was working on the basis it's going to be soft to heavy, weren't you? And I think it was nearer sort of good to soft, possibly.
Yeah.
And you think, what?
Very hot weather. Yeah. So incredible, really. Right, Judge. Enough.
Right, we better get cracking, mate, haven't we?
Everybody wants to watch England. We better be finished quick. Right.
Yeah, but I don't think there was too much there either. But anyway, that was a cracking game last night. That Qatar side are a good side, aren't they? Right. You're right. Moving swiftly on.
What a rich footballing history that place has.
Right. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Right. My first one ran on the Friday at Ascot in the 205. Very impressive winner, Your Darling. But I like the run of the second here, who's called Rebels Hill. Wasn't a bad racing behind. You had the likes of Phlegmatic, who's improving throughout the season. Janica, the old Vicky Henderson horse, is very, very well handicapped now. And Do Your Job, who had been well touted for the old Monet's Garden race at Aintree the time before. But anyway, this Rebels Hill's only run over fences 6 times now, unexposed. And have been showing real improved form over 3 miles and further last year, and improving, like I say. Won its last 2 starts, and this is his first run of the year for the Harry Fry stable. And like I say, came there cruising, but just sort of was one pace. The winner was very impressive, but he beat the rest of the field quite comfortably. I think when this all steps back up to 3 miles, there's going to be another couple of handicaps in this horse. What do you think, mate? Rebels Hill.
Rebels Hill, yeah. I like the sound of this one. I like the Noel Feely Racing Syndicates.
Yes. We're going to talk about another one of their horses later, aren't we?
We are indeed. Harry Fry. I mean, it had won impressively at Taunton.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, getting beat by Your Darling is no shame, because that is a monster.
Well, no. And also, it beat Slate House the time before, and Slate House, which we'll come to that race later, only got beaten a photograph at Haydock on Saturday, didn't it? So this is quite a progressive horse. Only run over fences 6 times. So it's got to be another win in this.
Harry Fry likes to run horses at Ascot. And I think he'll go back there again with this one, Judge. And he's unlikely to run into
such a well-handicapped horse again, isn't it?
Yeah. I was impressed by that. Yeah, I like the way he jumped as well.
Yes, pretty economical, wasn't he?
Yeah. That was impressive. I just can't get the view of Your Darling attacking them fences out of that. It was just awesome.
Yes, that was an impressive winner, but it's kind of one of them horses where you might not think will perhaps improve, because it's going to get a decent hike in it. The winner, that's going to get sort of £10, or certainly seven to £10. Whereas you probably see, I reckon Rebels Hill will probably go up £1 or £2 for coming second. But I don't think that will stop him from winning, because he's rated 137 now. If he goes up to 140, I could definitely see him winning again. I'm not worried about his handicap, Mark, especially if he goes back up to 3 mile.
He'll win in that grade again, no doubt. Next time, yeah. No, that was a good start off one, and God knows what the winner will go on to do. But good pick there.
Thanks, mate.
Now, I want to go to Haydock for my first one, and. Sorry, I'm having a few little technical itches there. We're all right, we're back. Now, Tamoris was a very, very impressive winner. Another Noel Feely Racing Syndicate horse. Can I ask you to just lean back, Judge, Mel Mucker?
I'm going, I'm up against the wall.
Yeah, that's better. You're up against the wall, yeah. We put him up against the wall, as they say. Right. Now, Tamoris is an absolute monster. He won very impressively at Chepstow. And he came here with a big reputation. I think he enhanced it. I actually don't think he liked Haydock. I think he likes a more galloping track. Now, second horse, the Pike import from the Harrington yard, Sizing Potsy, is a very, very solid yardstick. But the horse I want to take out of this race is the third, Snake Roll. Was only having his second ever run. He'd won first time out at Kelso in a Class 4. Now, this was a Class 1. He's run an absolute screamer to only get beaten in the neck by Sizing Potsy. This is a highly progressive horse. I think that Lucinda Russell's got another exciting novice on her hands here. Now, to give you an idea, Tamoris will go to Cheltenham or Aintree as one of the fancied top English horses. There's no doubt about that in my view. And to get within 5 lengths of that on your second ever run, and the form's got such a strong look about it with Sizing Potsy in, who was backed on Saturday.
Yeah.
I suspect with this has got so much more to come. Now, I don't think he'll ever beat the winner, but the winner's going to be competitive. But what I think they might do is stick him in a handicap at one of the festivals. Get him handicapped, get another run and a win in him, and then he's just the sort of type to be very, very competitive. There's a big race in this one. There's a big race at Kelso. I think
that's
it's
right, quite near Cheltenham, isn't it?
Yeah, and I would not be surprised at all to see him line up in that. And then you never know.
Race last year, that Kelso race. So.
Yeah, I am extremely sweet on that. I was knocked out by that. It's a very, very strong duel for me. Snake Roll.
Yeah, I like that one, mate. Good race. The winner's apparently going to the Tolworth next, so that's going for the Sandown Grade 1 race. So they must. We flagged that race that Tamuras ran in and won first time out of Chepstow. There's already been another winner out of that race. We won't talk about Bubble Dabby because I still think that's lined up for a handicap as well. So I wouldn't put anyone off following that horse. But this is like you say, Sizing Potsy set the yardstick. He's probably not quite so good over hurdles, but he's a 143 chaser. So even if you run to the mid 130s, you're looking at a horse there in Snake Roll on his second start, finishes quite close to that. He could be a nice horse going forward, especially on his second run. I like that one, mate. Good horse, good pick.
Yeah, nice one. Let's have your second one, Judge.
My second one's probably a bit more exposed, but he also ran at Ascot in the race after the one I just spoke about earlier, running the 240. The race was won by Larry, the Gary Moore horse. He had a great weekend, Gary, didn't he? We had a winner from the Jules Botock Has. That was a nice one for us from a couple of weeks back. But he had a good weekend. Anyway, so Larry won on the Friday. But this horse, Smarty Wild, did his usual. Come there full of running. This is my jewel for you, Smarty Wild, Philip Hobbs' horse. Come there cruising and didn't get on with it again. But this horse wants probably coming back in trip, I think. We certainly would like, I think Kempton would suit it better, where perhaps it's not quite such a stiff finish as it is at Ascot. He doesn't find a great deal, but he's definitely competitively handicapped. And it was his first run of the season, and I do think there's a win in this horse. He does travel well, so he's always a horse you probably want to put an in-running laid back in. But he travelled all over everything else, but it was only the game Larry that out-battled him. And he beat a good horse in Bob Hope or No Hope, which is a bit like they say about my tips. But Bob Hope or No Hope is a very solid yardstick for the Kim Bailey yard, and I think even the fourth there, Captain de Lily's a nice horse. So I think this is a decent race to be following going forwards, but Smarty Wild was the one I wanted to take it from the race.
Yeah, I cannot get on with this yard, as I've told you before. They just seem to be so inconsistent. What I will say is, this horse keeps a little bit back. He's highly talented.
Yes.
The problem he had at the weekend is Larry is an absolute terrier, a scrapper.
Yes. He wants
when them two sort of eyeballed each other, there was no way to yeah. Like you, I think this horse needs his head putting on the line. And that's not easy at places like Ascot. It's probably a bit easier at somewhere like Kempton. Yeah. It's not very easy at Sandown. It's hard to do a ride like that when you're finishing a stiff finish, isn't it? Because you've got to be. But you're right, at Kempton, Chepstow, maybe both courses where Hobbsy does well. Yeah, I'd say
it's a slow start to the season, isn't it, Hobbsy, as well? You think they probably almost certainly need a run.
I agree with you. They just seem to struggle for the consistency that he had a few years ago when he was one of the very, very top trainers. I really don't know what's happened there. It used to be a yard you could really follow with confidence.
Absolutely,
It doesn't seem to be like that anymore, but I completely agree. It's a very well handicapped horse now, and that it needs one of those real maestro rides, doesn't it? Almost kidding it.
Bring Paul Carberry back.
Yeah, exactly, that type of ride. I don't know who really does those rides now in Britain. Dennis O'Regan used to, but he rides predominantly in Ireland now. A lot of the top jocks are aggressive riders now, aren't they?
They are. I think I see Harry Cobden gave the Tom Cannon horse that I tipped up the other week quite kind of ride like that. Lord Ballaston won on. I think perhaps he might be able to do something like that. But
Hughesy rides like that. Hughesy can ride like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
That's what it needs. It needs a real quiet one head on the line. But yeah, right. We're going to go now, Judge. Would you expect on a cold, miserable Sunday at Uttoxeter in a Class 4 maiden hurdle to see a horse who may end up at the Cheltenham Festival? I would wager you will answer no.
No.
Exactly. Right answer. Well, I think we may well have done yesterday. The 12:10 yesterday, the first race, the Kazoo Maiden Hurdle, may just be one of those races that, so much racing now. It was on a Sunday. Wouldn't have been a great crowd there. Wouldn't have been a great TV audience. But we might have seen something a bit special. Now, I'll start by saying why I think that when I talk about the third horse, Harjo. Now, Harjo, trained by Charlie Longsdon, was well back yesterday. And I know that Longsdon expected a huge run. And I don't think he underperformed. This horse was second on debut, beaten by a horse called Maximilian. Now, Maximilian has got a big reputation. It's trained by Donald McCain and will be one of his better novice hurdlers. That looked like very good form. I still think it may well be. So Harjo turned up here yesterday with Longsdon thinking that, here we go. We're going to be extremely competitive, if not win. The horse went off 9-4. The horse has got beat 16 lengths. Now, you thought that getting beat by Maximilian was by a length and a quarter was good form. This thing has got absolutely trounced. Now, the second horse here, Issuing Authority, I know from like the Lamborn boys, has been schooling well. Was fit, had run at Uttoxeter before and had won its only run, a bumper, very easily on similar ground. Now, I can say our Jumps Max tipster, he went in with us yesterday and was massively confident that this was going to win. Now, so what we got here, we've got a solid yardstick in Harjo who was expected to run a huge race and was backed. He gets beat. This thing of Henderson's has beaten Harjo by 15 lengths itself, but neither of them could cope with Passing Well. Jamie Snowden, ridden by Gavin Sheehan. When this got eyeballed by the Henderson horse, it looked like the game was up. It looked like that the Henderson horse was going to go on, but he was not having it and scrapped back. Now, this is an Irish import. Was trained by Robert Tyner in Ireland. Jamie Snowden's gone to a significant amount of money, I believe, to bring this over. And I am told that he thinks this could be the best he's trained. Passing Well. I think that you will see Harjo come out and win a bog standard Class 4 maiden. That may be worth for this race may be worth following. I think Issuing Authority will probably go to Newbury in the next 2 or 3 weeks and win. And I am waiting to see where we see Passing Well again. But believe me, this is why you've got to watch and got to be aware. A little Class 4 maiden hurdle at Uttoxeter. I'm not knocking Uttoxeter, I love the place. But I would not have thought yesterday morning that we would see an exceptional maiden hurdle with maybe 2 horses that have got a big future. But this Passing Well, slick, hurdled brilliantly and showed a terrific attitude to beat what I believe and what I was told yesterday morning is a good horse in Issuing Authority. So I think we saw something a little bit special yesterday, Judge.
Yeah, I think you might have spotted one there, mate, because it cost 185,000 to pick that up from Ireland. It wasn't a cheap purchase. It wasn't one they got it on the QT. And obviously it did come second of 24 and 21 runners in a Punchestown bumper, which has actually thrown up some decent winners. Cool Survivor was out of that race, and that's won 2 or 3 times since. I think you might have found one there, mate. Yeah, I do think that could be one going forward. You'd like to think if you paid 185,000 for one, you'd like to think it's half good. And like all the things that you said and the rules, and I understand, mate. I think that's a nice one. Yeah,
I think we should
be winning more in better grade, won't it? Definitely.
I think that's the star to take out, and that is the jewel for me and the one to follow. However, I do think we should keep an eye on that race and on the second and third as well, because if if they do come out and I'm right, and the Longsdon horse is perfectly capable of winning a standard Class 4 maiden or novice, whatever, and that Henderson horse goes to Newbury and does what I think it is, will do and win, I think we can start to think this winner is seriously tasty. And don't worry about Jamie Snowden. If the horse is good enough, he will.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's important to look at what finishes down the field. This is when we were talking about the Bubble Dubby Tamura's race. You're looking at come like 10th, 11th. When you see the 13th that comes fourth next time out, the 9th comes out and wins, then you kind of know you're right. But so you'll be looking for those sort of frats, if you like, of the form. And I've got no doubt from what you're telling me, and also looking at the fact it cost 185,000, the right horses were second and third. It sort of all adds up, doesn't it?
Yeah, you've got, if the Longsdon horse doesn't run, then you might think, well, the Henderson horse maybe not as good as they thought. It maybe needed the run, blah, blah, blah. But the fact we've got the form with Maximilian, we know how highly rated that is by Donald McCain. The fact that Harjo was backed yesterday and that Longsdon was very sweet on its chances, he will have been shocked to see that beaten 16 lengths. And the only thing I can think of is
especially at as well.
He's going to go back to the owners and say, not only have we run into one, we may have run into two.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm very, very confident that there's a genuine strength to that form, and it will be proved in the next couple of months.
Yeah, makes sense, mate. Makes sense, definitely.
Right, finish it off.
Go for the last one. So number 5. Yeah. Obviously, probably the race, other than the Betfair Chase, the race of the handicap of the day was the Betfair Exchange Handicap Chase at Haydock on Saturday, the 3:35. And we were treated to a really good race between Fontaine, Collonge and the Big Breakaway. But two horses caught my eye in this. First of all, I mean, I know you fancied Houston Texan. I just think the ground wasn't soft enough.
It was too quick. It was too quick.
Yeah, you were led to believe it was soft and getting softer, weren't you?
Yeah.
And he ran well. Musical Slave caught my eye, travelled really well. Once again, another Hobbs horse that didn't finish. But the one I really want to take from this race is Rapper. And don't worry, I'm not going to. This horse is, for me, a right stayer who wants over 3 miles. And it's never, I've gone right back on its form. It's hardly ever tried anything over further than 3 miles. And all he does is really stay well. He won last year at Wincanton, beating El Paso Wood. And all he did was outstay that horse, and that horse has won off its mark since. And if you actually look at it from a handicap perspective, he's rated 139 on Saturday, and he's got beaten 11 lengths. I think he's probably going to get dropped another pound, even though he's come third there. He's only going to be a pound or two above his last winning mark. Now, if you could actually look at this horse's form, and from that race on Saturday, he was probably 6th, 7th turning in, and all he did was outstay the likes of Good Boy Bobby, Good Yardstick, Musical Slave, Houston, Texas. He was the one staying on, but he had too much to do, and he wanted to go round again, if you like. I'm looking for this horse when it goes over 3 1/4 and further. So he's handicapped to win. Once again, we're looking at an Emery Daly horse here, whose stable have been doing well this season, and I think this will be one that's popped out in the next sort of 2 or 3 weeks. They'll find a staying handicap for this, and I think there's a nice prize in this horse. What do you think, mate?
Yeah, I completely concur. I think what was interesting about that race is, I went up a blind alley with thinking it was going to be heavy ground, and that did for Houston Texas.
Quite understandable, really, with the forecast.
I'm led to believe that he goes back to Carlisle, and I think he might resume his winning ways. It all happened too fast for him on that ground. But we did say on Friday, even in these distance races at Haydock, don't be fooled. However far the distance is, you're still on a tight turning track.
Yeah.
So these big galloping types, however far you think, well, they've got 3 mile 2 to get back into it, they get too far back.
Yes.
And you saw that on Saturday with a couple of horses, Musical Slave being one, who was produced then late, but had used so much gas from the back he ended up folding after he jumped the last. Your horse, I thought, had that nimble quality that you need round there, where he was jumping off the right foot. He was still in the mix. The Big Breakaway ran the race of his life.
Yes,
I got a funny feeling.
Nice to see him back, wasn't it? Because he could have been a good horse. Yeah.
It could have been, but I've got a funny feeling that looked a very. Just one thing, if you watch the replay, Sam Twiston Davis, all right, it was a big race, but it wasn't very pleasant viewing. He didn't seem to me to be giving that horse much time to respond. He must have whipped it. Whatever. I mean, he got the job done, but I think the front two will know they've had a race for a while.
You wouldn't want them coming out in the next couple of weeks, would you?
No, and I hope the big breakaway can hold that form and we get him back. But did they have a hard race even on that ground? But yours, going forward, I do think Houston, Texas, he didn't enhance his reputation. I think there is an excuse for that.
And also it was up in grade, and totally different type of track, wasn't it? From a steep track to a sharper track.
All happened too quick for him.
Yeah.
He'll be back. But
I think that'll work out.
The good thing for your horse is Haydock stages so many of these races.
Yes, there's one over 3.5 miles there as well.
Yeah, there is.
And I would love to see him in that. Really would.
Yeah. And there's enough time for him to get over Saturday, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he goes on soft. He probably wouldn't want it heavy, but he goes on soft. So obviously you never know with Haydock. It can turn it heavy very quickly there. But
what did you think?
I think we've got some interesting ones going forward, don't you? I think there'll be a few winners out of that lot.
Just very quickly, Judge, what did you think to the performance of A+ Tard in the Betfair Chase? Can't have been the ground, can it?
No, I just think there must be something wrong with the horse, mate. It obviously didn't run its race, did it? It hasn't. It just hasn't run its race. I mean, as probably short ones go at the weekend, if they all run, that's probably the best value one. But I'm still not a short price type merchant. And I suppose the winner was overpriced if you actually look at what price they both went off in the Gold Cup. I think they were like 3s and 10s, and he went off like 15 to 2 in the end, didn't he, on Saturday? And the other one was like 4 to 9. So he probably was I just sat the race out and was just hoping to watch a decent performance. And I think we do see a decent performance from the winner. But whether he can keep progressing throughout the season, he's probably another type you've got to keep fresh. He's not one you want to go to the well too often with. So
he was incredibly impressive at Aintree last year.
He was, yeah. He ran well in the Gold Cup. He did run well in the Gold Cup. He probably wasn't an out-and-out stayer. Perhaps another year older, he might be slightly better.
I think he's got to prove he goes at Cheltenham as well as he does round.
I don't know. I can't remember the name of the race. There's one around the Christmas January meeting, isn't there? There's a trials meeting. It might be later on, mightn't it? But they have is it the Cotswold Chase, the 3 mile one race? Possibly you can see that running there, but whether that's too close to Cheltenham for it, at least you would then know, wouldn't you, if it acted on the track? But
we might see him at Christmas, and then that might be it. He might be aimed at fresh at the Gold Cup.
I thought Hitman was pretty impressive. It was nice to see change it because he hasn't. Because that obviously gave a Frank to Urals from the other week, which obviously won the Paddy Power. So that formed really the Monet's Garden race, which we was talking about. I thought he different change of tactics with the Hitman. He didn't shirk it on Saturday. I know he was beating inferior horses, but I've seen him not go by before. I thought he loved it in front. I thought it's a funny one for the King George, each way, if he was to get there.
I agree with you, and now I think they've found the way to ride him.
Now he's got his head in front, you know what I mean? Perhaps a prominent ride round Kempton. It's never a bad thing round there, is it? Desi used to love it.
No, and he looks the type who would have the pace to get round there.
Yes. I mean, loved Haydock, which is probably the other way round, if you know what I'm trying to say, but there's a sharply type track. Excellent. Very good, mate. I thought I was going to struggle this weekend. In the end, we've done quite well, I think.
Yeah, we've copped half an hour. Right, everybody.
Yes,
each way double dipper. We've got a very busy week. The church has got some big
we got the big meeting on Saturday, haven't we, at Newbury, the old Hennessy's now the Coral Cup or something, the Gerald Cup.
Yeah. We'll be back on Friday night to preview one of those Newbury races, I would imagine.
Yes.
And it's going to be another great week. If you are watching the football and you're there in the stadium, you won't be having a drink. If you're at home,
I'll have one for you.
I'll have one for you, But so let's all enjoy it wherever you're from. Hope it's a good game. And we will be back. I'll be back tomorrow morning. Me and the Judge will be back on Friday. Have a great week. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Judge.
Pleasure, mate. Thank you.